It's like $1.5 million in Germany alone. So yeah,
country
but no,
western
it's about late capitalism, which is just this idea. It's not political. That capitalism is already getting much weirder, and that's going to exponentially accelerate. So yeah, it's just I don't know what it's going to look like. So, but yeah, capitalism getting very, very weird.
And then there's
so,
actually a
but no, and so
$2,500.
I don't know. I've written some things. You're welcome to take one of these if you'd like. It's called The Church of Don't Be a Dick, and yeah, just it's about asking people what they might want to take responsibility for. Like I have some ideas and stuff I would like to work on, but doing it alone is tricky. So that's where the church idea comes in. I am not a deist. We used to have churches as kind of social hubs, if that makes sense. And some of that stuff is shifted online, which is not really social. You know, it says it's social media, but it's not really. It's kind of a placebo. So yeah, just trying to get out and talk to people. And,
it's awful.
Yeah, you as well. Andrew, pleasure. Jill? Thank you, Jill. Yeah, thank you very much.
Bread is bad.
Let's try to riff.
There you go.
You don't realize how awesome this is. Thank you.
Andrew, just
Sir.
From ground zero up, tell me what this is, what this idea is, how it came about, why it's important, why are we here?
All right, well, it is an art project. It is specifically late capitalist performance art. Late capitalism being an idea that could been around for a while, but the way I take it, I try to take it not political, because once you take it political, you lose a large part of your audience. Late capitalism for me is that capitalism is weirder than it's ever been on some level, and that weirdness curve is accelerating upward exponentially. So capitalism is going to get exponentially weirder. A lot of forces driving that. Oligarchy, I look at disconnection, I look at anxiety, kind of those things that I just think are really playing into this. Those are some of the themes and stories that I like to look at. But what I built was an advice booth, kind of as a joke, because the problem is so fucked that I don't really have advice. I mean, I kind of do, but not really. So yeah, it says the doctor is out, I am in. And also I wanted to lead at the bottom, you see memento mori, that's Latin. It's kind of the glass half empty version of carpe diem, like seize the day. Memento mori basically means remember that you're going to die. So
And why is it important to do that? I mean,
well,
that's not negative.
It's not. Well, it can be. Some people take it as, well, it's scary for one thing, but it's mostly scary because we don't pay attention to death in America. Like we have kind of like edited it out of our consciousness, you know? Like people don't like going to hospitals. We don't go to them. They're very sterile. They look like spaceships now, the new ones. Like it's very kind of surreal. People do die. What happens? You go and you meet like in some uncomfortable clothes in a weird place for about an hour, and you pretend like you're having real communication and really mourning about this person, and then we basically don't talk about it anymore. And you see death all the time in the media, but that's mostly to try to make us afraid, because people are easier to manipulate and easier to kind of gain power over when they're afraid. So memento mori is just this idea. It comes mostly from Stoicism, that death is inevitable. And for me, what I get out of that is it doesn't make really sense to be afraid of things that are inevitable. So, and death is real, it's all around us. My little brother died 4.5 years ago. That was kind of that was my first real experience with death on a personal level. So that was a lot. But yeah, no, it's, and this whole thing, it's an art project. But the reason I made it an art project is because people didn't want to talk about uncomfortable things in public. And there's two main reasons for that. Or just in general, people didn't want to. One, it's not malicious. People are busy as hell.
Yep.
Everyone is. Like everyone is running, everyone is busy. Like we are just constantly go, 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 go. Stress, anxiety again coming in. So yeah, it's impossible to get people's attention almost. And then when you do, if you try to hit them up right off the bat with uncomfortable things that they have a visceral reaction, exactly, then the 5% maybe that you actually are communicating with, you're gonna lose like probably 95% of those. So our project, it is a, yeah.
Because it's normally, even myself included, I'm guilty of this. I don't want to talk about uncomfortable things with somebody who I already know I have a credible relationship with, and who I'm, even know intimately. That's okay. So, close friends, family. But what's wrong in that thing? Like, why couldn't I just roll up on a perfect stranger and we should be able to talk about the worst parts of this world.
Oh God.
But
Yeah.
not in a counteractive negative way.
Totally. No, it's a trust issue. Has to do a lot with fear. And you can look, there's a lot of reasons for that fear. One, the basic one I look at in terms of evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology is that
Oh, you're fine.
back in the day, in the past, like people were more dangerous than they are today on some level, like physically. Like it was much more dangerous physically to go up and talk to someone random, because you never know what could happen, and there might be a violent disagreement, a violent difference of opinion. So now I think we have, because society is getting more and more partisan, or getting more extreme, people are less willing to trust right off the bat. You know, it's people and that makes sense because there's a lot to lose in trying to go and talk to people right off the bat. They might be a crazy person, you know, you might be really uncomfortable. There's a lot of ways that could go that would be bad. But also it's hard, I mean, those things are hard enough for me to bring up. I read about it all the time, and it's still hard for me to like bring it up and try to talk to people about it because it almost makes it more real.
Pause that thought. I'm
Sure.
gonna just change my.
It actually helped with that. So yeah, the first times I was doing it, I was just throwing out random stuff because literally even doing this, even with all of this, I was still getting ignored like high 90s, right? So even this was not enough to cut through. So, but all the restaurant experience, 20 years of that, that has helped for sure. But no, and then I just started having to try to call out to people because people just walk by. But this has actually been key. So I don't know if you can see it from there, but it says the Church of Don't Be a Dick, or the Church of Don't Be Something. And our project about the end of humanity, specifically we're engaging in late capitalist performance art. It's funny, walking by, you can watch people when they see the sign. You can see the exact second when they read it's an art project about the end of humanity, because they're looking this way, instantly forward, right? Completely changed body. Like just almost like this, like don't engage with the crazy person, right? Like that's absolutely, you can literally sit here and watch. And it's usually right about here. It's like they're looking, boom, right? But then that's where you lead in, and that's where you can actually get a chance to like actually start a conversation.
In a way, is that good because it kind of like weeds out the people who might not be open-minded?
Totally. Or just not interested in art. But see, making a crazy claim like this, an art project about the end of humanity, then you say, oh, it's about catastrophic climate change. And you're signaling like, oh, I'm not the crazy you think I am. I'm actually a crazy that's going to make sense to you, and we might have like alignment on values and beliefs, right? So yeah, and my line that I use that seemed to work the best is like, yeah, no, climate change is not aliens, right? The end of humanity, like, because maybe they think I'm a flat earther, like, who knows? I might be a flat earther. People are scared, but that's what the sign is about. I wrote some things. I hand out propaganda actually, which I think is fitting. So this is actually. Yeah, see? Propaganda. Ugh. And then, since late capitalism was weird and we're talking about a weird future, I have references here. Science fiction books.
First of all, I saw Dune, I was like,
yes.
How iconic is that for our generation?
It's one of my favorite, oh, exactly, all right, desert planet, man. But no, I built this, little bookshelf. Philip K. Dick, Ursula Le Guin, Verne, Nietzsche, ABVV, Bradbury, Ayn Rand in there just to see, because some people have like a very visceral reaction to Ayn Rand, so I'm just threw it in there. I didn't use Atlas Shrugged, I used The Fountainhead, which I like better. I like her, all of her characters are sociopaths, which is one of the problems with her, but at the same time, it's instructional. But yes, advice booth. This is kind of a mythic meme, if it makes sense. Like this kind of stretched back 50, 60, 70 years in America. So like a lot of people recognize the advice booth. It's just kind of like dials into Snoopy, it dials into Americana. That's what the football, this is Lucy's football that she always, that she pulls. Yeah, late capitalism, pulling the football out from under us, right? So
Andrew, I got a question.
Yeah.
I love this, dude. So what are some of the best and worst and everything in between? What are some of the most unusual or standout interactions
with passersby?
Yeah. In the booth setting,
Yeah.
like-
Oh, and this? Huh. Well, one of them, like 10 kids, like high schoolers came up, and we actually had like a 10-minute, it's an art project. The end of humanity, probably climate change, probably not aliens, probably not, but art project and late capitalism, just the idea, ideally not political, that capitalism is getting increasingly weird, exponentially going to get weirder. So very, very weird future. Our projects, climate change, like catastrophic risks. This is an icebreaker to try to have conversations about uncomfortable things in public, actually. Because I was trying to talk about those things and then literally it was just like, boom, you know? People are busy, and so I would lose like 95% right off the bat because people are busy. And then when I tried to talk about stuff like that, another 95% right off the top, gone. So at least this is actually working in terms of having conversations. So I don't know if you're interested in reading more about crazy ideas, but it's called the Church of Don't Be a Dick.
Oh, awesome.
So
It's an actual church.
it will be.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we're going. Well, we need it. So church. It's not a religion. I'm not starting a religion. I'm starting a church, which is completely different. A church is a 501c3 corporation.
Yeah.
So it's a corporate structure that is more egalitarian in terms of access to it, because 3 people with $1,000 can start a church in a week, and that's a corporation then that they control. It's a corporate structure, and you need corporate structures to fight other corporate structures, right?
Smart businessman.
I thought about it for a long time, and I think we're completely fucked.
Yeah.
I think we're completely fucked, so I think not a lot to lose, actually. So if you were interested in, I wrote some crazy things.
All right,
And I have some propaganda if you come back some other time that I wrote too. It's the same stuff that's on there though. So yeah, thank you very much. Well, yes.
If I may, I'm not the one to rate, but that seems like an average interaction.
You nailed it. It's just elevator pitch. And see this, as soon as someone stops, right, then that means they are interested in something going on here. I don't know what, but they're interested in something, and then I can try to engage. No, feel free. No, walk, absolutely walk. I'm mic'd up, so yeah, no, keep walking. You guys are good. But no, that was about probably 1 to 2 minutes is average.
Anybody ever try to come up and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, I disagree with you?
No, the first time I set this up, I sat in a chair right here, and I literally was sitting here freaking out about that. Oh no, you're fine. No, this is a natural walking, yeah, no. But no, I was seriously I put up the flag, I had the table, I had the banner, I was just okay, are people, and then again, ignored, no one cared. So one crazy guy who's a flat earther who also comes here and talks about religious issues sometimes, he was a little weird, but not bad, no. So no, it's been pretty much uniformly positive or neutral, which is...
So before I had you mic'd up, this nice woman came by, and you guys had just you left with a handshake, and she was genuinely interested in what you had to say.
Well, it's taken me 8 or 10 weeks of figuring out how to talk about the ideas so that people actually engage, and then it's kind of a story, It's the end of humanity. Again, it's uncomfortable, cuts through the noise, then you immediately reassure, right? Well, the end of humanity is inevitable. It's on a long enough time frame, right? So again, it's something inevitable. I would like that to be millions of years rather than decades, but just me, it's personal preference.
So I know of you, because I know you personally,
Yeah.
you're a very deep thinker, but I would never say you're a negative person or anything like that. You talk about some deep things that some of my other friends don't do right openly, but you, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not putting words in your mouth,
No.
but wouldn't you say you're pretty much an optimistic person, or is that incorrect? And tell me why or why not. By the way,
Tough one. Art project. Yeah, good. So optimism, yeah, it's interesting. It's a good question.
you know what, we can go out like this. What are you optimistic about? What are you most...
Cool.
What
Well, that's easy. I am optimistic about the youth. They get a bad rap, and they are self-organizing now on a scale that has not been seen before. Yesterday was September 20th, so the climate strikes. I'm a big fan of Greta, and yeah, the kids are the ones who have the most to lose in terms of catastrophic climate change and some other problems that we are developing for them. We're building that for them, which is unfortunate. But no, I am helpful about. I'm really optimistic. Also, technology has a lot of bad effects, and we're seeing a lot of those. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's fun. So yeah, social medias and your friends on there are not actually your friends, and that becomes a placebo for community, which I think is important.
Please talk more about. Let's hit on that because
Yeah.
I've been off it for 4 years because it just. I feel like a better human.
Yeah,
being
dude,
about it.
it's.
So I know people.
You're not feel like you're getting jerked around by like stimulus all the time. A couple things. Well, the reason technology is so addictive is that a lot of the smartest people in the world have spent like years and years and years and billions of dollars to basically turn it into a way to hack your brain, so that it's almost impossible to not look at it, not pay attention, not want more of it. And we are seeing that more and more and more. Interesting thing about that is a lot of people in Silicon Valley really limit screen time. A lot of the people that built this technology, which I think says a lot. But no, social media, it's not really social, it's a placebo. Because one of the things I believe about this community is you have to feel a sense of presence, which means that there is another agent, there's another actor, like on some level you are not alone in the space, the physical space ideally, but also like the narrative space. If you have people sharing narrative space, then you kind of feel, yeah, not alone. And there's a lot of ways to think about that. But social media generally doesn't do a great job at that.
What about the bullying with the youth? Like if you.
Oh.
When you and I grew up.
Oh my God, I can't.
Verbally.
Gives me anxiety just thinking about it, dude. Like, no, I was rough enough. Like yeah. I moved a lot, or felt like a lot. I was small for like a lot of my childhood. It was brutal. Yeah, I mean, already remembering a lot of it. And if I could be, yeah, if my attack surface was so huge that people would be constantly sniping me and attacking me and putting rumors online and doctored pictures and deep fake videos now. And yeah, then, yeah, you're basically almost like you're never safe. And I think that's one of the things we're seeing today with the kids is they don't feel safe because they're constantly exposed and they're constantly vulnerable online, which is why you see this massive upsurge in the last 10 years in terms of especially teen suicide, teen mental illness, teen depression, and also medication. We're basically medicating some huge chunk of a generation of youth now, and we're starting earlier and earlier because there's systemic kind of structural issues that are kind of doing this to the kids, and we don't want to take a look at that, and so we just treat the symptoms with the drugs, right? And just numb everything. And yeah, drugs. Another thing about this, yeah, my brother, he was 10 years in and out of rehab and used drugs for probably 12, and then he died of a coke overdose when he was 27. And so I've thought a lot about drugs since then, and one of the things that I really thought about, it's not my idea, but that drugs are painkillers for the soul. And if you think about drugs in that sense, then these millions and millions of kids that we're giving drugs to, like, why are we doing that? Well, it would make sense that they are in pain and that we are trying to remove that pain from them. And like harm principle wise, like, I mean, I think you're preventing harm by doing that, but I mean, also there's kind of second and third and fourth order effects stemming from that I think actually do end up doing a lot of harm. So I don't know what the answers are. I mean, I know what some of the questions are, maybe. I have some guesses at some of the questions, but yeah, no, well, yeah, why? Well, no, the three things I look at in terms of like capitalism, I look at disconnection, I look at anxiety, and you can either go oligarchy or plutocracy, whichever one you want to focus on. But I think those things exist. I think they've always existed, but there's just stats and science that, you know, more like Americans, it's something like close to half don't even have like one person they trust. Like if something went really bad for them, there's some huge number of Americans, I think it's less than 50%, but somewhere between 35 and 50, where they literally have no one to call. They have no one to turn to. They have no one to trust. They have no one to help them, basically. So they're isolated, which makes them vulnerable, which gives them anxiety, which makes complete fucking sense to me. But yeah, you have a whole aging population. Like a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s have literally no one. Like their friends have died. They're increasingly disconnected. People move now way more than they did. the financial crisis kind of hollowed out the middle class on a level, destroyed neighborhoods. Like you had a lot of people that had lived in neighborhoods for a long time and their houses were not their houses anymore and they had to leave. So you saw a massive splintering of community for that. Yeah, it's fucked. Like it's really bad. So, and we're talking about it, but we're talking about it, like I read about it in academic journals, I read about it in the newspaper, I see YouTube videos about it, and I see some things like, you know, in the real world where you're actually breathing the same air. I think those are powerful. We can talk about reasons why, but yeah, I think breathing the same air as people, there's so much communication that happens that way that we generally are not conscious of, so. Oh, nice.
I'll get your flag. You invented that, right?
I did. Yeah, that's my logo. Yeah, that's the Church of Don't Be a Dick flag, actually.
So tell me what you hope to accomplish with the whole Church of Don't Be a Dick concept.
Cool.
How are you going to improve life and everything?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things I talked about in late capitalism, oligarchy, plutocracy. It's a very interesting thing. We're seeing decentralization in terms of access to technology, and we're seeing massive concentration in terms of wealth and corporate power. We're seeing, like, because you're basically just seeing mergers now. Like everyone saw that economies of scale and being vertically integrated was incredibly effective in competing globally. So we're seeing a lot of that, and so you're seeing a massive rise in corporate power. So one of the things I was thinking about some years ago after my brother died, and I was kind of reassessing a lot of things, was that, yeah, individuals less powerful now than we've been, and I think that trend is going to continue for the vast majority of people. So I was thinking about ways of leveraging corporate power so that individuals and just normal people might have a chance to kind of use that corporate structure. You can talk about it as a shield, you can talk about it as like a framework to build on, you can talk about it as a network, you can talk about it as a way of leveraging interesting quirks in the American legal system. Leveraging quirks and doing it completely legally, which, yeah, that's what accountants do, actually. If you want to like get into a weird thing, that's the accountant's whole job, is to work with quirks in the legal system to benefit some at the expense of others. So yes, churches, actually, very interesting things about churches. One of them is the only kind of 501c3 corporation in America. It actually is the only one where once you start it, you are actually grandfathered into 501c3 status and you don't actually have to apply. It's actually the only one where once you start it and you incorporate, then you have that automatically, and then the IRS has to come and take that away from you if you were being shady. Which is very interesting in that it then lowers the barriers to entry in terms of gaining access to corporate structures, which I actually think is going to be really important in the future. The other thing,
I'm getting too old.
Oh yeah,
I gotta go back on the
no, do it. Uyghurs and all kinds of stuff. All right, dystopia in the world. Like where do we? Yeah, no, go. Well, the surveillance state in China at this point is pretty dystopian. Orwell would throw up in his hands in horror and probably shoot himself in the head if he saw what is actually going on. Xinjiang. But so I look at that, I see that exists in the world, and I think about one of the kind of most traumatic events, right, for most people my age, one of them, 9/11. So when I look at that, I look at 9/11 and I look at what happened afterwards in terms of the Patriot Act, in terms of the erosion of civil liberties, in terms of America as a people having this convulsion and just not feeling safe anymore. And so then, hey, good to see you. So then legislating away some freedoms in exchange for safety, right? Problem is, Ben Franklin, he said, those that would trade freedom for safety deserve neither freedom nor safety, and I think that's absolutely true. So what happened was 9/11, we were attacked, people were more afraid, and we traded freedom for safety. I think under the current president, if something worse happened, like if we had a horrible 9/11 style biowarfare attack, something like that, and I obviously hope this doesn't happen, this is horrible, and obviously we don't ever want this. It could happen though. And with CRISPR technology, it's actually getting easier and easier to do those types of things, so we'll probably see more and more of those. But It's unfortunate, but so a church, right? Like, why am I thinking about starting an actual literal church? Well, again, church is not, it's not a religion that I'm trying to start. It's a church, which is a 501c3 corporation. Hundreds of years of legal history, uniquely protected under the Constitution, right? Long history of people starting churches in our society to address ills, to address problems that we have. But yes, so 9/11, a new 9/11, 10 times, 100 times worse. What would happen? Well, I think again that we would see people willing to trade freedom for safety, and it could get very, very dystopian. So one of the reasons I'm thinking about starting a church is that church is uniquely protected under the Constitution, and actually all churches have the same rights. And so if one church was actually trying to work against dystopia and like against like tyranny, then that means that every other, and the tyrannical government like kind of tried to attack. Problem is, if someone attacks one church, then the legal rights and their legal kind of powers, then they're actually attacking by proxy every other church that exists in America, because all churches have the same rights. So in some sense, it's a way of being anti-fragile in the face of tyranny, in that if you needed to like stand up against some hypothetical tyrannical force, then you would have a lot more protection, because anyone that fucked with you would by definition be fucking with all of these incredibly powerful structures that still exist in America that are actually 501c3 corporations, that are churches. And so it's a way of actually protecting yourself in the event of things going very, 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 very bad. So that's another reason why I think about it being a church, because one of the reasons that I'm doing this is that I think it's gonna be very, very bad. And then that goes back to memento mori, is this like, yeah, no. I mean, a meteor could come down and hit me right now. I could get a car accident on the way home from here. Like, yeah, any of us die at any moment, any day. And that's just what life is. And we don't really focus on that much in society. Like, that is something that the powers that be prefer us to be afraid of, as opposed to like coming to terms with and actually integrating into the narratives we tell ourselves about our lives. Because, I mean, what is life? Life is like a whole bunch of days like today, and then you die. That's basically what it is.
I was
So,
moving around like a jackass.
yeah,
Do me
no,
a
it's
favor.
fine. Yeah.
Say that whole thing again. What you just said.
That life is just a whole bunch of days like today, and then you die?
Give me that in a complete sentence.
Well, memento mori, talking about doing this art project, talking about starting something insane like a church. Yeah, memento mori is this idea that, yeah, any of us could die at any time. It does happen. Like, once you get old enough, it's pretty much inevitable that you have some experience with death. And if that's not the case, then I actually feel more pity for those people, because the longer you wait with that, like, the harder it is, like, the harder it hits you once it does happen. Like, I was 35 the first time, or 36 when I really had it's an art project. Yep. The end of humanity, probably climate change, probably not aliens. Yeah, could be aliens, but probably not going to be aliens. So yes. And then
You got a little library here?
I do. I built a little bookshelf, and I have a library.
Are these all relevant to the
Well, it's interesting because this is about late capitalism. And so late capitalism is this idea that I think about, that capitalism is getting weirder, and that curve is exponentially accelerating. So capitalism is getting exponentially weirder. Someone, like, all these people wrote some ideas about some ways that could potentially go, basically.
Yeah.
So it's almost research to try to think about how weird the world is going to be in even 5 years. Like 10, 20 is like, I don't think it's even possible to imagine. 5 is hard. Like 5 is ridiculously hard, just because the technological growth curve, I mean, is really, in terms of bits, has really accelerated in terms of computing. Another thing is it's kind of stagnated on some levels, but yeah. So I was trying to talk to people about this. The whole thing is called the Church of Don't Be a Dick.
Oh, okay.
And it's a way of just talking in public about uncomfortable subjects, late capitalism.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all it is. It's an art project. It's an icebreaker to try to facilitate exactly this happening, because I was trying to talk to people about this, and I was being ignored like 95% of the time just because people were busy. And then when I tried to talk to people about uncomfortable things, I lost an additional 95%.
So uncomfortable things, is that like climate change?
That's catastrophic climate change. That is surveillance capitalism. You know, the fact that we are being surveilled and mined for our data, basically, farmed for our data, basically, like all those free apps, like they're actually not free.
Yeah.
Like we're actually paying for those with personal autonomy and agency on some level, which is unfortunate. CRISPR, gene editing, synthetic biology, I think is going to be, that's going to be very weird. I have a lot of things that I like to talk about in terms of these things. So yeah, I wrote some crazy things. I built a website that's on there. If you want some propaganda, I actually wrote some, but I'm not going to force that on you. But I wrote, just 4 things. And since I like science, see, this one is about Nicholas Taleb. He wrote a book called Anti-Fragile, right? See, and then I put links on the back, so I actually cite all my sources.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, so that one's about Taleb and about anti-fragility. Yeah, that's anti-fragility. I wrote another one about power, another one about ways of competing. So yeah, but I like science a lot, so that's why, write something, put some links, let people figure out if they want to for themselves. Oh, sorry, man. But yeah, no, website, email is on there. I'm just trying to talk to people, man. That's it. Andrew.
Andrew, I'm Thomas.
Thomas, thank you so much, man. Thanks for stopping. Oh, that would be great. Beautiful. Thank you so much, man. Oh, beautiful. I like it. So yeah, graphic design. Yeah, no, this graphic design is important. I had a friend do this one, but I did everything else. So
what's that?
That is it's a logo that I just made up when I was intoxicated one night.
I brought to mind the Greenland flag a little bit because that's also a circle.
I will look at that. I was not familiar with that. This one, I was intoxicated one night. Rode through the darkness towards a goal. That's about it.
Okay.
Could be a planet. Obviously I read a lot of science fiction. Moon, but yeah, darkness, road, goal. That's all it is. People need symbols. Symbols are important, like logo, brands, all that stuff. Yeah. So I didn't have a better idea, so I just made that one. So, because at least then I could iterate, right? So yes, because a bad plan is better than no plan, because at least you can iterate on a bad plan.
A study of, I forget what it's called, the study of flag design.
Mm-hmm.
It's a certain word. It's something ology. And
really, of course there's an ology.
Yeah. I forgot. It's such a complicated word, an obscure word. But yeah, this follows the rules. This flag.
Oh really?
You're supposed to keep it very simple. I mean, 3 or 4 elements. And clear from a distance.
Awesome.
On a small
that
scale,
makes sense.
Right? And he said that this guy, he was giving I think it was a TED talk about flags.
Damn it! I have to watch this now.
And if I dig it up, I'll send you the link.
That would be great.
But he said the worst offenders of breaking these rules of keeping it simple are the flags for cities, like Milwaukee.
Oh, seal and
they
all the
cram as much as there's like a factory and an animal and a seal and a laurel wreath and a little Latin inscription.
Oh, and it all has lots of meaning, right? And so everyone's just like, yeah, nope. Yeah. I also like design and I like history. Mm-hmm. So the golden mean, the golden ratio.
Yeah.
Well, it's a golden rectangle.
Oh yeah, okay.
The bottom to the top is actually golden ratio as well, and that's a golden. If you take the road up and it meets at the point, that's actually a golden isosceles triangle. So I was kind of drunk one night, and I just I needed something, and so literally I painted that. It's acrylic on canvas. Made the bookcase, made that. No, literally just trying to talk to people was so tough that I was just trying to constantly tell them about ideas, and people are again so busy. People don't want to be told about things. It's much easier to show. So at least this shows I'm a little crazy, and that I'm willing to go out in public and talk to people about crazy shit.
It's interesting because it's a bit of mystery as opposed to all the other stands. You're not quite sure what it is.
They were a little mystified when I asked to do an art project here, because I don't think anyone at the Davis Farmers Market, I don't think they'd ever had anyone request that. Mm-hmm. But that's one thing, a lot going on personally. I haven't done that yet, but that's something I'm probably going to do before the year is out, is start, because this is a good one. A lot of people here, very nice. Then I think we have a better shot moving forward, no matter what happens.
Okay, something to think about.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Have a good one. Yeah, so success for me on a day like this, 3 or 4 hours, is maybe 10 conversations like that over the course of those 3 or 4 hours. So
what do you get out of this? How does this energize you? Or
I have a lot of resentment, lots of resentment about lots of things. And one of the things about resentment is when you don't let it out and kind of like say the things that you need to say, then the resentment can be really poisonous. So I was resenting a lot of things. Being ignored, I was definitely resenting that, like a lot. And then also just how screwed up things were, how no people weren't paying attention, just screaming into the void. I had a lot of resentment about that. So one of the things about resentment, once you talk about it and you get it out and you can actually communicate that resentment, it just cripples you less, and you can kind of move by it on some level. Just coming to terms with it and just getting it out. Because resentment a lot of times is resentment comes out because you have things that you feel like you need to say and you're either not permitted or you're not able. I'm getting all this from, it's all Jordan Peterson, so.
It seems to me like what I like about this is letting it out is sometimes the solution in and of itself.
Yeah.
I need to fix my resentment. No, just
Totally.
the fact that I purged, I'm going to have a better day.
You are, and yeah, stress, right? Stress is real, it's physiological, it's mental, it's like lots of things. Like stress is a killer. Like it really, in terms of sleep, in terms of like low level inflammation all over your body, like just saps you of energy that you could be ideally putting into constructive stuff if you had the energy to put in. But if you're busy, you're stressed all the time, you never slow down, you can't be alone, like you're never bored, like all these things. Yeah, it's stressful, and that makes it really hard to attack the root causes maybe of those stress or even think about them, like, oh, I'll think about that tomorrow, right? When you come home from work and you're exhausted and just drank 5 beers and took a bong rip, right? Yeah, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of high quality deep thinking at that point. Like maybe, but probably not. So.
Think about, not today, but if you ever think about all time, one of the best interactions you've had dealing with, is there a standout moment?
Yep, well, the one time that someone actually gave me her phone and wanted to take a selfie in the booth, like that once that happened the first time. Yeah, young, it was like 10, that group was like 5 teenage girls, and they were down. They were thinking about some of these very same things already, so that was one of the reasons, just in terms of catastrophic climate change, instead of them having the most to lose. That's one of the reasons the children are the ones that are motivating and organizing, is because they have the most to lose. So in terms of the incentives, a lot of the people in power, generally old white people, generally, not exclusively, but generally, those people, they don't have much to lose, and a lot of them feel like they can insulate themselves from the worst case scenario anyway. So that even if there are a lot of people losing, they and their families are not going to lose. That's kind of one of the inherent assumptions that a lot of people in power are making about the way things are going to go. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to get so bad so fast that everyone's quality of life is going to go down. And I don't want to be isolated and alone when that happens. So another thing, just a completely selfish reason for building this, is that if I can build a corporate structure and have all my friends show up and we all work together, all of our lives can be better, and we can all have a better chance of not having our quality of life go downhill over the next 20 to 30 years. It just makes sense to me to work together on a team and try to build that, because alone, again, isolated, vulnerable. But when you have a team, you can actually have each other's back, and everyone's good at different things, right? So.
I'm going to throw a word at you, and just tell me good, bad, whatever you think.
Yep. Millennial. They have been subject to a massive smear campaign, actually, millennials. I mean, obviously the cliches, like they can't afford houses because of the avocado toast, the hipsters, like all of this. Yeah, there's a lot of books written about this, the millennial generation. Millennials work harder, like they are more educated. There's all of these great things about millennials. The technology, like one of the ways I think about this is as a cyborg limb. Because it's interesting when you don't have your phone. It almost on some level it does feel like you're missing a limb, which is kind of interesting to think about. But it's a cyborg limb that allows us to kind of interact in terms of like the metaverse or cyberspace. So like I had to learn how to use it. I didn't grow up learning it, you know, but millennials, iPhone was invented, what, 11 years ago now? So it's kind of something they've grown up with, and they wield it, it's second nature. And in terms of allowing them to communicate and network with each other, in terms of self-organizing, if you could build like a structure to allow the young people to self-organize, which is already happening and has happened and will happen again, but if you can make it easy, I think you would see more of what we saw yesterday in terms of children, and I say children, young people mobilizing at scale. So I think that's one of the only things that's going to help and give us a chance to really keep, carbon from, going. I mean, we're at 415 parts per million now. It's going to get way worse. And we're talking now, too, a lot of the talk about climate change is like, oh, yeah, we need to prevent 2 degrees of warming. It's impossible. We're already blown past that. Like 3 to 4 is what we're looking at now. And if you look and read about what that would actually entail, 3 to 4 degrees of warming globally, it could. Well, there's a guy who wrote a book. He was a New Yorker author. I can't remember his name, but he was on Joe Rogan a couple months ago. But he wrote a book called The Uninhabitable Earth, which is basically what we're talking about when we're talking about 3 or 4 or 5 degrees of warming in terms of climate change. So, yeah, feel free. Art projects, just talking about it. So yes. What was I going with that? Oh yeah, self-organization. The other interesting thing that's might have a chance of changing everything, since we live in a democracy, is no one has actually been able to get people 18 to 25 to vote, which is actually very interesting that no one has been able to do that. I think the main reason for that is people who are not 18 to 25 mostly. They were the ones trying to get those young people to vote in order to leverage them in terms of seeking power on some level, which is probably why it didn't work. But if you actually get the young people, what if you got like 10 to 12, 15-year-olds to organize 18 to 25-year-olds to vote? Just the shaming alone of having people half your age who you don't respect, like showing you up and educating you about your civic responsibilities. I don't know. I actually think that might work. And the kids these days actually have access to technology that might facilitate that. So,
all right, do me a favor.
Yeah?
So,
I was an optimist.
okay, so start the whole thing.
Yeah? Final thought, you asked me if I was an optimist. On some levels, yes. There's people that write that are smarter than me probably, like Steven Pinker and other people. Like, yeah, things are good. Poverty is lower than it's ever been. Childhood death rate is the lowest it's ever been. Like, it's just, there's a lot of good things happening. The problem is that I think there's a lot of exponential curves that we're starting to see slope up. And I think a lot of those are going to run together, and that it's possible that some very negative curves could overpower like a lot of these positive curves that we've been seeing. And that's what I'm worried about. And also, I'm planning a lot of the stuff I'm thinking about, worst case scenario. Maybe that's the way to end it with. You're fine. Yeah, no. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? Well, this thing I'm trying to build, best case scenario, build it. Everybody wins. More community, more fellowship, more people getting to have time and hang out with their people. Feel free to walk in front. It's like a live. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, also, worst case scenario, if things do get very bad, having to start from scratch on a lot of this stuff, yeah, that's time we're not going to be able to afford. And I don't think we can afford it now. Like I said, we could have maybe prevented the worst parts of catastrophic climate change like 20 years ago, like maybe 30 years ago. But people saying we have like 12 years now, or we have 18 months or whatever, like, we're already way behind the 8 ball. We're already fucked.